Let's go ahead and spend some time today talking about the different lakefront communities on Lake Kiwi. First of all, we have over 100 named waterfront communities here at Lake Kiwi. Now, as a buyer who might be watching my video, you start going, wow, how in the world do I figure out what I want to look at or talk to Michael about when I'm thinking about properties on Lake Kiwi? So I try to make it somewhat simple for you. Obviously, I've got over 100 communities there on the site with video by car and video by land. And the video by car is just to simply let you get a feel for the drive-in into the community and kind of how the layout, the road system within a community, and obviously the photography of the houses from the lake and from the car kind of help you get a feel for what kind of houses are in the neighborhood. And then I filmed it by boat also, so you can kind of see how these houses look from the water. So as a consumer, as a buyer, it's just overwhelming with that much property. So I'm just trying to make it easy for you to kind of get a feel, because you can search different type communities from location on the lake to drive into town, when the community was formed, amenities. So there's just 10 or 11 different ways you could search, but still it's just a lot of information for someone who might not know the lake too well to kind of try to comprehend. So I try to break the communities down in about 3 different tier structures. So I'm just going to call it like a tier 1, a tier 2, and a tier 3. If you call me on the phone and you say, hey Michael, we're looking for these lakefront, private, amenity, gated communities on Lake Kiwi with wellness and golf and fitness and tennis, then the Cliffs or the Reserve would be probably 1 or 2 communities that I would definitely wind up showing you. There's also another community on the lake called Kiwi Key. That community is a somewhat older community, has a little bit older communities, older amenities, but it still has a nice feel to it, but just doesn't have quite the feel to it that like the Cliffs and the Reserve have. So you got tier 1, which are golf, wellness, fitness, tennis, private, amenity-driven communities on Lake Kiwi. Now we step down from there and we go to tier 2 communities. A lot of the tier 2 communities I like to classify as the crescent communities on Lake Kiwi. So obviously if you're watching the video of where I'm standing in front of the map, kind of giving you a 15-minute overview about the lake. When Duke Power built the lake, they bought all the land, and then they started a company called Crescent Resources to handle their land development. So over time, Crescent has gone in and developed these communities. Take like Waterside Crossing, Waterford Point, very, very nice crescent communities on the lake. So those are your tier 2 communities on the lake, and there's 40-50 of those on the lake in which that we might want to look at, plus some other very nice communities on the lake. So also in the tier 2s, which are predominantly the crescent communities, I classify them, you also have what I call tier 2A. Make it simple. Tier 2A would be like crescent communities with amenities, and 2N would be a crescent community with no amenities. You might say, hey Michael, I've looked at a lot of your communities on the site. I really like Waterside, Waterford Point, Crestview, Pinnacle Point. So those ones that I just mentioned, 2 of those would be 2A communities, Waterside, Waterford Point, actually 3. They have amenities, and the Crestview and the Pine Ridge Point would be what I was saying would be a 2N, a crescent community with no amenities. So that's just a good way to start classifying the communities on the lake, because like I said, with over 100, it's easy for me, but it's hard for you to comprehend, what you'd be wanting to look for. So tier 1s, which are the private residential golf lakefront communities with amenities. Tier 2 are the crescent communities, the 2A and the 2N. And then I have what I call tier 3 communities. These might be communities where you say, hey, I don't want the golf, don't want the wellness, don't want the fitness, I don't want the pool, I really don't care to pay the little bit more premium pricing that you typically find in a crescent community. Michael, that's kind of what I'm not looking for. I would probably be trying to lead you maybe towards a tier 3 community, which is still very nice communities on the lake, but they might not have the feel and the amenities that like a Waterside or a Crescent 2A community is going to have. And that could be a subdivision, take for an example like Clearwater, Wellington Point, something like that, that would be maybe a community that I might guide you down. So, you know, with that many communities on the lake, I just try to break it down for you as the consumer, the buyer in the marketplace, to help you understand what could be out there for you. And so when you call and we talk to each other, you maybe have some kind of sense already of, by watching the videos about the communities, of what we might want to talk about when we're together on the phone, okay? So just like I said, just kind of want to give you a little brief overview about the communities here on the lake. And another thing, like I said, we have over 100 named communities on the lake. Now, do keep in mind, a lot of people ask me a lot of times, say, Michael, find me a property that is not in a community. Well, and with that many communities on the lake, most of the properties here at Lake Keowee are in a named community. So, but there are still properties out there that are not, but it's just not that many of them. But most people still, at the end of the day, still go for one of those named communities, those over 100 named communities on the lake, because they protect you with covenants and restrictions for what most people are looking for here on Lake Keowee, okay? So that's somewhat of an overview of our ability to think about over 100 communities here on the Lake Keowee, and then we break that down and we talk about, you know, budget also. Let me talk about a little bit about the budget on those 3 communities that I mentioned. Tier 1, like I said, the Cliffs, the Reserve, you know, those are going to be the most expensive communities basically on the lake. Once you drop down to a Tier 2 or Tier 3, it will all just depend on the community itself. Take for an example, like I said before, a Waterside, a Waterford Point. Those are nice 2A with amenity crescent neighborhoods on the lake. They're typically draw a little bit higher value than some of the maybe Tier 3 communities on the lake. So a lot of our decision making is going to wind up going down to what we're going to talk about as far as budget and how much money that you want to spend here on Lake Keowee, okay? If you got any questions, feel free to call me. I hope you enjoy those videos that I have of all the communities on the lake by boat and water. Those are very helpful, and let me know if you have any questions.